All right, welcome back to my channel. My name is James, and we're going to do another deal breakdown. So, I've done a few of these already on my YouTube channel, so check them out. Always like to do these. A lot of people like seeing them. And typically, what we're going to go through is the property, the specs on the property, the numbers on the property, and figure out if it is a F for the fund or an F for failure. So to start, this is a property that was brought to me by one of my students. Fortunately, in these days, I only do work with my students. I do have a lot of people reaching out with a lot of deals. I do want to apologize. I can't get to them all. I do give priority to my students. That's pretty much who I have time to work with these days. But either way, this property was sent to me by one of my students, and as you can see, it's a property in Georgia, kind of a little outside Atlanta, Hampton. Good city, good price point, a lot of new builds here. And so, nice property built in 2020. Obviously, that works for a lot of funds. 3-bed, 2-bath, kind of a minimum for most funds that like to buy rentals and hold on to them. 1,400 square feet. Great square footage point. Not too big, not too small. Great for a family. And so, typically what I like to do is I like to really just dive into the pictures, explain a couple of things before we get into the numbers. So to get to the numbers, we really need to understand, our rehab budget on this. And, like I mentioned, this was built in 2020. So, cosmetic updates, we're really not going to need anything, right? So what we really want to look for on a property like this is if we see any damage that needs to be repaired. People live in properties get damaged. And so that can be anything from walls to paint to flooring to appliances, what have you. People have animals damage things, kids damage things, us adults damage things. And so nice thing about these newer properties, typically the big ticket items are good to go, right? The roofs, the HVACs, plumbing, electrical, water heaters, things of that sort, really should not have to touch anything here. So that's going to tell us, okay, what kind of repair are we going to be looking at? So nice professional pictures here. This thing is currently on market. It was sent at a discounted price my way. And so obviously as we go through the pictures, we can tell that the current homeowner is not sure if the homeowners are living in it or if it's tenant occupied. Either way, it's been taken care of, right? We can see the kitchen, nice countertops. One thing that we always look at are cabinets, right? Cabinets get a lot of use. So sometimes you need to repair them. They look pretty good here. Nothing missing, nothing standing out. Bathrooms, we always check. Maybe there's a few chips here and there. Not a big deal. One thing we always like to look at is carpet, right? Sometimes carpet could wear down really quickly, especially if people wear their shoes on it, things of that sort. Animals, if they decide to use the restroom inside, that can always be an issue. So, 5 years, 6 years old, carpet probably might need to, maybe doesn't need to replace. Maybe some does, some doesn't. It really just depends. But as I'm scrolling through these pictures, everything does look pretty good. We like to look at the lighting fixtures, the ceiling fans, all still pretty modern. So you walk into this house, it looks like you're walking into 2025. Either way, I do always like to have some type of budget just for, maybe we can't see something in the pictures. Maybe they're hiding it, obviously. So something like this, I'm going to put a minimum, I'd say $10,000 just in case, right? Other things that we do look at, we look at the outside of the property, landscaping. Maybe we need some new sod, maybe some fencing, things of that sort. Maybe, smaller items like blinds. A lot of people will damage the blinds. Flooring does look good though. Sometimes doors get damaged, handles, things of that sort. So, I would say this is very, very minimal, great upkeep here. Let's go ahead and just apply about 10,000 to this one. We want to get to a total cost of acquisition. Typically, I'll start without, us building a spread into it. So this was sent to me at $220,000. So we're going to add that 220 to the 10,000 of just in case rehab. So we're at about 230,000. So we want to understand if we can get this property at a gross rental yield that makes sense. Now, if we go back to the listing, we can kind of scroll down and get to an estimated rent. Zillow. So Zillow's saying 1834. It's a pretty good number for this price house. We do want to check on that. Sometimes we could check other Rentometer or even Redfin, Realtor, those type of websites. But usually I'll start with Zillow's estimate. And although it did give us an estimate, we kind of always want to check that. So we're going to pop over here. Let's see. Let's get to our rental estimate. Here we are. I'm going to put our address in here, and we just want to kind of review the comps that it's pulling. Make sure that 1834 that it's giving us will work. Let's see. Here we go. Okay, so we're going to scroll down. So as we can see, it's not really pulling in comps from the actual neighborhood we're in, but rather some other neighborhoods nearby. This can be a sign. No rentals in this neighborhood can mean a couple things. It's a newer neighborhood, so maybe it's all owner occupied or maybe has rental restrictions. So we always want to check with the HOA to see if there are any restrictions that are, big turnaways. Either way, we are going to see if we can kind of find some comps right outside the neighborhood since we have none inside the neighborhood. So we want to find some single family, detached single family to compare to. We have this one right here. It looks slightly older, but we definitely can take it into account. See, one story, working with a one story property is 1875, about 100 square feet bigger. So I definitely take that into account. Let's see, another one here, 2100. So if we split the difference, I would say 1834 is a pretty good number. So I'm going to run with that. So let's go back to our property. Let's make it 1850. Give it a little extra here. As we said, we had it at 220. We're going to add our 10K, so 230. So let's work on that number. So we're going to take our rent, which is going to be 1850, multiply that by 12 months. And our yearly rental capture is going to be 22,200. Without adding any type of spread, we want to see this just kind of works as is. So we're going to divide this by our acquisition cost of 230,000. Again, 220 purchase plus the 10K of just in case rehab. We're at a 9.6 gross. So 9.6 gross in a market like Georgia around Atlanta is not bad, right? Most funds are going to be somewhere in the 9 to 10.5 range. And so being at 9.6 as a starting marker, not bad. Now we can start adding in our spread. We don't want to overdo it, right? We want to get this thing sold. So, on average, I'm just going to add, say, 15K. So if we add 15K to the total acquisition price, it's going to be 220 purchase price, $10,000 rehab, plus $15,000 spread, right? So that's going to equal 245,000. So if we go back to here, we're going to take the 1850 again, just to rerun through it. That's 1 month of rent times 12 months. Again, we're back at our 22,200 of rental capture for the full year, 12 months of rent. And our full acquisition price of 245,000. Again, that does include our estimate spread of 15,000. So let's see what that comes to. It's at 9%. So I think with these numbers, we can definitely send this to a fund. Now, as you can tell, the current on market asking is 255. So we're at 245 to the fund. Not bad. Now we kind of want to do a little bit more checks on this property. So what we want to do is we kind of want to check out the area around the property. So we can kind of go down to the street view. you know, brand new homes, a lot of 2-story homes here. Looks like maybe they built all the 2-story properties, and obviously there's a couple infill lots that are not here. They're probably here now, right? This can be an older picture. Got a 1-story here. We got our 1-story. That is right here, but not in the pictures yet. Sometimes if you go to a different part of it, they'll pop up. That might be our house right there. But either way, it's a nice neighborhood. So a neighborhood like this is great for funds because there are a lot of purchase comps as well as rental comps. And so they really can get down to numbers they believe they can trust when it comes down to what they believe they can rent the property for, what they believe they can, if they want to sell the property, what they can sell the property for. Now, very nice neighborhood. You can tell it's still very, very new, looks great. I bet a lot of renters would really like it. Let's go a little more throughout the neighborhood. Check it out. Right. Most of these look like they have been sold, but the whole neighborhood's brand new, right? We don't have a bunch of homes from like the 1920s, 1950s, 1970s, 2000s, right? It's not a mix of properties. We like that they're all pretty much brand new. And so here's the entry point of the neighborhood, something that we really want to look at. This will actually be a big indicator of is a fund willing to purchase this property. It's all about the experience for the renter. Like, do they feel comfortable coming to this neighborhood, living in this neighborhood, right? If there's a bunch of broken cars and trash everywhere and stuff that's unappealing, well, funds don't really like that, right? Because if a renter is checking out this neighborhood and they go to a different neighborhood where it is well maintained, well taken care of, well, as a renter, you're probably going to want to be there. Looks like another entry point to the neighborhood. So now there's 2 entry points, which is great, not excessive. And now we kind of are going into some farmland, it looks like. Okay, so maybe this neighborhood's a little more on the outskirts, Clayton County line, or Clayton County coming into here. So let's go the other way. And now we're running into some commercial. Now this is interesting, right? As you can see, it's all commercial around here. Looks like we have some businesses that have yet to, maybe some new buildings. I don't see no schools. We have some tracks here, so that's interesting. On the back side of the neighborhood, we have a big trucking lot. So we're going to cruise back over to our main street and see what else we have here. So we have some yards, some equipment yards, it looks like, of some sort. We have some, what is this here? We got a brick yard or a brick company of some sort, some more truckers. So having the experience that I have right away, I know this is unfortunately going to be an F for failure, right? A fund is going to do exactly what I'm doing. They've probably already done it, but either way, they're going to see the train track. So as a renter, you're coming from the main part of the city, right? You're coming from a school somewhere. You're coming from businesses over there, and you're taking this drive right past the Masonic Center, past a bunch of these yards to get to your neighborhood. Now, that might not be a big deal, right? For us, whatever. It's back here. It's a still very nice neighborhood. But for a fund, they're going to see this as kind of a sight for sore eyes, right? They don't like having, in a renter's experience, driving past all these businesses to get to the neighborhood, because they know if there's another neighborhood closer to town that has maybe schools close by, has other businesses close by, grocery stores, it's so much more appealing to a renter, especially if you're trying to get a good amount of rent here, right? And it is, right? We're trying to get up the upwards of $2,000 a month in rent. So if there's another new neighborhood that looks like this, kind of closer to town, where you're maybe more so driving past parks, driving past schools, past nice businesses, where it feels more of a neighborhood set in in an area of other neighborhoods, it's more appealing for renters. So knowing this property, obviously it's still available. So I didn't buy it. A fund did not buy it, but I pretty much knew right away when I looked right outside the neighborhood that it was going to be a F for failure, unfortunately, because the numbers work great. There's certain things like that experience driving into the neighborhood is going to stop the fund from buying it. So again, unfortunately, on this deal breakdown, not due to numbers, but due to experiences going into the neighborhood, we're giving this an F for failure. Hard one for my student because it looked like a great deal, but unfortunately, that's how they work sometimes. So, logging off here. Let's get some deals done. If you're one of my students, keep sending them my way. If you'd like to join my mentorship, we're starting up pretty soon here. So, tap in, book a call with us. We'd love to talk to you, see if you're a good fit, and get you working and selling some deals.